Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome back to all the participants joining me on this session. So, participants, we have been involved in building the pipelines, and as part of the build pipelines, we have been building the provisioning, we have been pulling the code, we are building the code, we are generating the artifacts, storing it, and there have been few services that are nowadays buzzing and they have a role to play in these DevOps pipeline also. And that segment in DevOps pipeline nowadays is very popular is continuous inspection tools that are very popular using SonarQube. So SonarQube is the agenda for our discussion participants. So I'll tell you what is the SonarQube, why it is important. First thing I want everyone to understand, participants, this SonarQube is an extra piece in your learning. When you're learning DevOps engineering, this is an extra piece, but don't make it mandatory that you should go ahead and do it. This is just something that companies are nowadays using a lot. There might be a chance that you might come across SonarQube, but don't make it mandate that you should get to practice this. If you want to practice, practice. If you don't want to practice, it's okay. But having a knowledge that might be important for you, but this is not something that don't make it as a blocker. So participants, are you with me? So what I want you to guys is visit this SonarQube and understand why it is required and how it is required. If you look at the definition, SonarQube is an open source project because we are focusing more on the open source. So it's an open source platform developed by a company called SonarSource for continuous inspection. See, for the continuous inspection of what? The code quality. So participants, assume that you are a developer. You are writing a code. I'm the DevOps engineer. I have to go ahead and release it. So it is not that just the code is given by you. As soon as the code is given by you, it is not recommended to push the code into production or some kind of release. There should be some standard checks. There should be some standard way of evaluating whether the code is very much production ready or very much quality that I should be very much sure to push this code. In a nutshell, I should go ahead and inspect the code before I release as a DevOps engineer. That's where continuous inspection word came into picture, like continuous release, continuous development, continuous deployment, continuous integration, continuous inspection for your code quality. Why? To perform automatic reviews with static analysis to detect bugs and code smell on 29 programming languages. Very straightforward. So participants, you can visualize SonarQube as a software that is basically gonna read your source code that you have written, follow certain standards, read those standards, like there should be some standards. So based upon those standards, SonarQube is gonna go ahead and get implemented so that it can start doing automatic reviews of your code that is primarily targeted towards detecting bugs and also code smell on your code. So participants, instead of just looking at the definition of the SonarQube, let's go ahead and understand by implementing this. So participants, just to have a look at, this is how SonarQube is going to look like. It is going to go ahead and identify your code issues. It's mostly used by developers. This is kept in mind as part of the learning. Why? Because maybe a project that you're working that might need SonarQube integration. So keeping in mind, the SonarQube discussion is brought here. So let's go ahead and do one. Let's go ahead and start implementing SonarQube. And it's very easy. I have written an end-to-end documentation for it. I'll share this document with you people. You can use this documentation to do the Sonar Cube activities. Very straightforward. So definition of the Sonar Cube is it's a automatic code review tool that is going to detect your bugs. It's going to integrate with your workflow. This is targeted towards continuous inspection. So in order to handle this scenario, we require to have an EC2 instance. We are anyhow having an EC2 instance, and we are running the latest version of Ubuntu. The recommended size is about 4 gigabytes of RAM. So participants, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and pick up this machine, which is in this stop state. I'm going to start this machine. The size of this machine is T2.medium. That is basically 2 vCPU and 4 gigs of RAM. So that should be sufficient for your practice. And Postgres SQL is required because it will store the data. And security groups 9000 would be required because we will use Jenkins port 80 and Sonar Cube at 9000. So we will also make sure, yeah, by the time it's running, let's go ahead and confirm the security group. Opening at port 9000 also, will open at 9000. Add a rule. 9000 is the port. Good. Now the instance is up and running. Just give me 1 second now. Okay, so the machine is up and running. Let's do connect to this machine. Gonna be involving via the SSH. Oh, no key. Give me a minute, guys. I'm gonna pull my key. Yeah, I did get my key from my downloads. Now I'm into my DevOps machine, DevOps master machine. So root privileges apt-get update -y just to keep my machine updated. So let's get started into the Sonar Cube. So participants, Sonar Cube will involve certain configurations to be done upfront. So we'll increase the VM maps count. This is to increase the system CTL and the file size that it can support. And the upper limit. And then the configuration. So what I'll do now, I'll just go ahead and increase the limits. Just go ahead and add for Sonar Cube. The explanation for plus plus symbol is that you can go ahead and add these values. You have to add these values. Don't put plus plus, it will not recognize plus plus. So it's done. Make the changes and modification is done. So this is to allocate the values, that is like the references involving the file sizes. Now all of these tools we have already installed. Git is not available, you can install Git. Anyhow, the Git is already done. Jenkins is already done. Java is already done. We have already installed Java on this machine. If you feel there is an issue, just run this command, it will take care. Maven is already done. This is kept in mind in case if these installations are not done. Maven is already done. Maven is running with the Maven version and Java is already done. Jenkins we have already installed. Now it's time for us to focus on Ubuntu instances on Ubuntu instance, the actual Sonar Cube. So make sure that is updated. That but friends, it might take some time for me to do these installations. Just stay with me. Yes, I would like to continue. Okay, so updates and upgrades are done on this machine. So certain dependency softwares installed in wget and unzip, they're available, but in case if they aren't, yeah, it's already done. So participants, the next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start using Postgres, because in order to store the outputs that are received as part of the database, we will store in Postgres DB. Step one, to download the package installer for the Postgres. Next is to download the key. Next, to go ahead and install PostgreSQL database. Okay, so Postgres database is installed on this machine, and start this Postgres database service by systemctl. Systemctl Postgres is started. You can enable the access. This Postgres is running. Now we can see this Postgres. So I would like to go ahead and create for this Postgres password. Done. And then I'm going to switch to this user called Postgres so that to perform operations on this database involving this user called Postgres. Yeah, now I've picked up the user as Postgres. And I'm creating a create user called Sonar. And pick the access, the database. Now I'm inside the database. I alter the user. Thereafter, create a database called Sonar in Sonar Cube Postgres database. And then grant all the privileges for this database Sonar Cube for the user called Sonar. And then we'll make an exit with which we are done. So participants, very simple. What I have done, just to give a quick summary, into this machine, I have installed Sonar Cube database. I have created a user called Sonar. I did go ahead and give privileges to that user called Sonar, all the database privileges for this Sonar user, and grant those privileges. It's done. So let's make a quit and let's make an exit from this user. So we are back in this. So I gave you quit from the database and exit from this. Now it's time for us to actually set up the Sonar. So you may go ahead and download a temporary folder. Okay. So temporary files are still there, so you can remove them. And then now it's time for us to get started with download the Sonar. Yes, it's downloaded. Thereafter, we'll do unzip. Then after the unzipping, we will go ahead and create a folder called Sonar Cube and move this Sonar Cube into this directory called opt/opt/Sonar Cube. Done. So we have downloaded all this. So we'll remove this zip file, remove Sonar zip file. Yeah, pretty cool. So let's come out of the temporary folder. So we have already installed it. So Sonar Cube installation is done. Now it's time for me to go ahead and involve the configuration. That means I have to go ahead and use the Sonar Cube configuration. Now, before I do all this, you might be feeling, now do I have to remember all this? Participants, this is only one time setup. This is done by the administrator or a DevOps engineer. It's only one time because it's all about setting. Thereafter, if you use it, it's very straightforward. You'll see how simple it is to use Sonar. This is all done for the configuration and installation. So don't spend time in understanding every line, even if you're not able to understand. If you're understanding, that's good. If not, it's okay. Because this is one-time setup. After this becomes very easy for you to relate because we will start using it. And the purpose of using this is to just check your code before you release, to identify bugs, code coverage, code smell, security vulnerabilities. They do a lot of checks with that. Now, continuation to that, configuring Sonar Cube. So we cannot run Sonar Cube under root user. So if you run, it will stop. So it is recommended to go ahead and create a separate user, a group to run the Sonar Cube. So let's go ahead and create a user and add this user. So group add Sonar, assign him the permissions and privileges, and then change the ownership for the directory accesses over the Sonar Cube and use this Sonar Cube dot properties under the config file. So input these values. What are these values? Don't worry, I'll explain you. And remove the plus symbol. Once again, plus symbol is just given to show you that you have to add it. So all these values are already available. If you want, you can encrypt those values, or it's already there. We're just adding them, or we can even. So participants, here you will find Sonar Cube and username, user credentials, Sonar, and the password and the database. So I just added them just to include those databases. PostgreSQL database here. I'm using Postgres as my database. So I've mentioned those values here. So let's hit the changes and done. I made the changes, and now I would like to go ahead and run all the permissions under Sonar. So what is the user? It's not available. Let me add here. Just give me 1 second now. Let me double check and confirm. Sonar. It should be at the last part of the line. Run as Sonar. Okay, let me just add here itself. Run underscore as underscore user equal to Sonar. So the shell script, the privileges for the shell script to be run under the Sonar. Okay, now once this is done, it's time for us to actually start. So we have done the download, unzipping, build, unzipping, then moving the artifact, creating a user, changing the permissions, giving the permissions to user Sonar, credentials, and whenever the script runs under the privileges of Sonar, user called Sonar. Now it's time for us to start. So let's go ahead and take the ownership, take the privileges as user called Sonar, and then navigate to our file where the sonar.sh script is available. We can start it. Give me a minute, guys. It's not copying. Copy one more time. Yes. Sonar Cube is started. Now, there are other pages that I've given that you can look upon. These are some extra pieces. If you want to stop it, this is how to stop. This is something that you don't want to run this command explicitly. You can go ahead and execute just this CTRL. Just say sudo system CTRL start Sonar. For this command, one line number 177 to run, line number 178 to run, line number 179 to run. You have to execute these two commands or these two values to be added. This is something that you can look in. For this 177, 178, 179 to run, you have to make sure that you have to go to this file 173. and run these lines at 174 and 175. What will happen? These will be added by the systemctl. Whenever you run this command, it automatically picks these values. Or this is what line number 177 is expected to run. Instead of you running this way of line number 166, which is go ahead and start it, you can just go ahead and say systemctl start sonar. So sonar becomes a service to start. And for this to happen, you have to execute these lines at 174 and 175, which you may look later. Participants, let's not waste time on it. And let's focus on the accessing. So let's go ahead and access the Sonar Cube. Sonar Cube gets accessed on the server IP at port 9000. If you're on a local machine, it's something that you can go ahead and run on your local machine at 9000. But right now we are on a EC2 instance. So pick that EC2 public IP and hit your port 9000. We have already opened up 9000. So Sonar Cube is expected to open up. Yes, now participants, Sonar Cube is ready. So what I want to do now is do a login. So the credentials I've mentioned here with username and password, default administrator. I think it's admin and password. Both are admin. So participants, this is what is Sonar Cube is all about. Let me tell you, whatever I have done is only one-time setup. It is all about setup. Let me show you how it is going to be helpful for your projects. Now, it is more important for you to focus on the usage part, how it is going to be useful for you and how it is going to help you as well as your project. So how it is going to help you. So let me just go ahead and create a new project here. Let me go ahead and say, this is our, Java, or this is our beta project, which is for Sonar Cube. For example, give a name, do a setup. Now, for this project, I'll go ahead and create a token called beta-sonar cube-token. I'll generate this token. Now you will understand things better. So it'll ask first question. So in order to run analysis on your project, where you have written this code or which language did you use? I've used Java as my programming language. I'll ask you, what kind of build technology did you use to build your code? Participants, what is our build technology? Participants, what is our
Maven?
That's all. So it will go ahead and give me the analysis for this code involving the project code. So it last execute the scanner for Maven from your project running is very straightforward. You just need to run this. So let me just go ahead and copy this code and let me go into my machine and run this code. If I run this, it's very straightforward. But let's just keep this as part of Jenkins. Let's go ahead and use Jenkins to do this. Code 8080. So Jenkins is up and running. So what I'll do, instead of me running it, I'll just pass this code integration with Jenkins. So let's go ahead and build this Maven project. And I'll go ahead and say, hey Jenkins, whenever you're doing this project, right? When you're building a project, also make sure that you test this code now. So what I'll do, I'll just go ahead and mention, hey, make sure that you also execute this command for us. After cleaning and package, just go ahead and run this code. Where is that token, guys? This is a token. So I'm asking Jenkins, happily go ahead and execute this code for us. Thank you, Jenkins. So now participants, it's time for us to build the code. So you'll see now what happens when the project gets built. This is an extra piece. That's what I said. This is an extra piece that you will be taking an advantage from Sonar Cube. So console output is happening. Scanning is going through. See, it's scanning the project. It is downloading all the Maven projects. Yeah, cool. And output is, yeah, SonarQube is done. SonarQube has been validating the code. So let's go ahead and check the output for this project. So participants, I think the SonarQube has already done the analysis. Cool. Now participants, here is your output result for the scanning that is done. There you can see, people, we have passed the certification from the SonarQube, and coming up to the coverage, 80%, 80 lines of code has been covered. And coming up to the number of bugs, there are 2 bugs that have been identified. If you hover your mouse, you'll go ahead and identify those bugs. See, it has identified a bug. So now it's not your solution that you will have to go ahead and fix it. That is not your problem. That is something which developer has to go ahead and fix it. Developer has to go ahead and fix it. Now, developer also will have access to this port 9000, and they will ask. So developer will come. Now I'll take the role of a developer and see, okay, developer will come to know that, okay, there has been a bug that has been identified. Now it's up to the developer how he will go ahead and handle it. Oh, he'll say that, no, this is not a major blocker. It's just a piece of information. So I'll just keep it as inform and close it. That's it. It's a warning. So he will ignore it and comment it. That's it. Next, there is another bug which is been identified. Maybe he might have fixed it and he might have resolved it, or he himself has kept it as blocker. So blocker means he can't go proceed beyond this. So I have to go ahead and stop. As a DevOps engineer, I'll have to go ahead and stop the release, saying that, hey, let's go ahead and have to stop because the developer has kept it as blocker. So let developer work. He will work on that issue and he will say, hey, I fixed this. So I'm confirming it as fixed, and now it is being resolved. The blocker has been resolved. So now it's resolved. It's resolved. Then I'll continue with my release. Yeah, now the code is cool. Let's go ahead and release the code. Since the bugs are fixed now, there's one bug still. Yeah, let's go ahead and say open, and we'll keep this as also released, and resolved as fixed. Done. So the bugs have been fixed. 0 bugs, 0 vulnerabilities, 0 security issues, and 1 test case already tested. All good. No issues. Whatever the issues have been highlighted, it's done. Now participants, now with this, for me as a DevOps engineer, I have a complete report that I have generated. I'll share this report with my clients saying that, dear client, this is the final result that we have right now that is generated from SonarQube. So client will say, okay, now it's cool. You can release the code. Participants, everyone, are you with me, people? Hello? Have you understood now what is the power of SonarQube? It has done an inspection on your code. Everyone, are you with me?
Yes,
Since I am able to relate now what I have done, I have done nothing new. There's a code that is developed by the developer or written by the developer. It has been tested against a continuous inspection tool called SonarQube. SonarQube has given me the complete report that yes, there were bugs initially. We have identified that bugs, released those bugs, and it's now good to go ahead and release this code into the product. Everyone, are we good? Any questions on this part? Any questions on this part? That's what. It's not that you should be knowing in depth about SonarQube. This is just a value addition, an extra piece. If you have an idea, that's well and good. If you want to do a practice, I would suggest you can skip this practice, but just if you want to get one more time and understanding of this, you may visit the recording and understand it, but don't spend your time on this part. These are some extra pointers. Nowadays, this has become little popular because a lot of companies have so many developers. So in order to keep their code correct and tested, they go and allow you to integrate with SonarQube. Okay, participants, everyone, are we good?
Yes, Kumar.
Okay. Now, just out of the box, there's another tool that I wanted to go and implement for you for the DevOps engineering. That tool is also popular nowadays, or it's been popular. I will go ahead and bring the discussion of JFrog for you people. Now, what is this JFrog for you? Participants, what has been our artifact storage to store our artifacts? What you have been using as an artifact in the DevOps pipeline? What is your artifact storage? Now, I didn't expect this, guys. What is your artifact storage, guys?
Which we get from the code
Output of
output.
Correct. What is that storage you have used?
S3 bucket.
Come on, guys. You have used S3 bucket. Aren't we used S3 bucket? Right? S3 bucket is because you are running on AWS cloud. So it is not always that you will use S3 cloud, right? You will not use AWS cloud to store your artifacts. There might be a chance that companies might not use AWS or Azure or any other cloud. They don't want to store in S3. See, there is a chance that a company might use S3 as an artifact storage or might not use an artifact storage. So we should be knowing above S3, is there any artifact storage that is involved? From my side, the answer is yes. There are a lot of artifact storages that are available in the market that are being used by companies like JFrog, Nexus. So there are companies that show interest in storing their artifacts in other projects or in other softwares like JFrog, Nexus. So what I've done, participants, is that I have picked up one such artifact storage, which is called JFrog for now for our discussion. Even this is also a value addition that you're trying to do involving JFrog. So just type in JFrog. JFrog is also very popular for storing the artifacts, and especially the artifacts that we are using in our project is var or jar projects. So you can attempt the jar or var project storage into JFrog artifact storage. So for this also, I have done the documentation for you people. So you guys can take this documentation from my side. So what I have done is, participants, I have done the same steps what we have done for put up the same steps for the JFrog. So let's go ahead and implement this JFrog. Let's first understand the purpose of the JFrog. So purpose of the JFrog is very simple, people. It's a advanced repository management solution for your applications that involve code management, artifact storage, and it continuously integrates. It can get easily integrated with your Jenkins, the continuous integration tool. It can act a source for storing your var packages to that of containers involving Docker and Kubernetes images, Docker images. So at this moment, let's keep ourselves in the var packages segment. So we will remain in var packages. So for this to set up, we need to have a Java installed, which we have already done on our machine. An EC2 instance is required, right? And we have to have a 4 gigabytes of storage. We have it. A JFrog will need a minimum of 4 gigabytes of RAM, right? An Ubuntu machine, a security group to be opened up to run at port 8080 and 8081. So it's to be opened for 8081. So we open for 8081 and 8082 also, but it's better to keep port 8082 also for JFrog. So let's go back to the machine and make sure those two ports are also opened up. edit the ports and put an entry for this, because it is going to use that port 8081 over the internet, and another port 8082 and this port. So now for this machine, the required ports are opened up. So let's go back to right. So port 8081 and 8082 participants. Just keep this in mind, port 8081 and 8082. So Git code is available, Java is available, Maven is available, Jenkins is available. Jenkins, if you are using from local machine, make sure that is from the local URL. So you can discard line number 24, which can discard line number 25. Next, the other installations that involves Java, we have already done it. Maven, we already done it. Jenkins, we have already done it. Now it's time for us to keep ourselves on I have mentioned here the ports 8081 and 8082. So now very clear with the installations that we have done. Now it's time for us to go ahead and download the Sonar Cube. This is the key for downloading the Sonar Cube, public key. Let's make an exit from this machine as Sonar. Download the key. Download the artifact. And then towards updates and upgrade, sudo apt upgrade -y. It's like some issue in the package. Updating. Okay, it says the public key is not valid. So if that is the case, participants, let me just try with the installation. If it is not supporting, I'll go ahead and fix by downloading from the JFrog documentation itself. Just let me attempt the OSS, open software. Yeah, now it is not able to install because the package is not there. So no worries, guys. Very simple. How to go ahead and get the documentation. So you can go ahead into the products, and under the products, we are looking majorly on the JFrog artifact. And we are installing it. Scroll down. You'll get the installation. JFrog Artifactory. It's taking me to the same page. Open source, yes. Let's do one thing. Let's remain in open source instead on these trial products. Let's navigate to the open source. JFrog Cloud open source artifact. Now let's go ahead and get the source. I'll give you the link also. I'll put the link. Don't worry. You can download it. Yes. It's downloading from here. I don't need the download. I need to download the package. Download open source. Give me a second or two, guys. Let me get that link. JFrog products. Install JFrog on Ubuntu. Artifactory /install. Okay. Yes, I was looking for this link. I could find this link, and let's keep very simple. It is for Debian. I think it is only supporting 18.04. Let's give a try. Or Linux archive. Let's try with this Debian Ubuntu 18.04. Looks like, and let's see the status of this artifact that got installed. This is applicable only for 16 and 18.04. Let's try one more time. Participants, I'm just guessing. This is my experience working with artifacts JFrog. JFrog needs more amount of RAM. I'm guessing because of the less RAM of T2 dot medium. Maybe it's not able to consume the resources because already we are associating with Jenkins a lot of resources. So what I'll do, participants, is that right away I'm gonna exit this machine and I'm gonna exit this machine. What I'll do is right away I'll go ahead and increase the size of this machine to see is there any effect for this machine. So click on actions and instance setting. I want to go ahead and change the size of this machine. Why? Because these services need a heavy size. So let's see, can we go ahead and change the machine type, termination, stop, shutdown, recovery, instance type? Oh, it's still running, right? So I have to go ahead and stop this machine. This has been my experience. Because minimum of 4, sometimes it has to need more than 4. So I feel right now the machine is at 4 gigabytes. So that might be creating a problem. So I feel we should go ahead and increase the size from 4 to 8. Then we can see, then we should see a progress in that machine. I stopped that machine for the purpose of increasing the size. We cannot do anything on a running machine. So I have to stop this machine. Still not changing. So let's try one more time. Come on, it's not at all getting stopped. Come on, guys. Instance, stop yourself, please. Still stopping. Yes. Now, participants, it has stopped. Now I will go ahead and change the instance type to T2.medium to a little more larger size, which is T2.large. Yes. To T2.large, large, T2.large. Now, why did I do this? Because when I was running the artifact, I was able to see it was saying the packages that you are running are not able to start. That means I was able to guess. It normally things don't start or the services don't start when they don't have sufficient resources with them. So for that reason, since I was running at T2.medium, so I felt T2.medium can become a blocker. So I had to change from T2.medium to T2.large. So assuming that because of the resources being unavailable, it was not able to get through. So I had changed T2 medium to T2 large, expecting that there will be a progress inside this machine. Cool. Now it is running. Let's go ahead and participants. But if you people use T2.large, expect a heavy bill on your machine. You can expect good amount of billing on your machine. So don't use T2.large sizes even for your practice. Now I'm connecting to that machine. Inside this machine, taking the privileges. Let me be very much sure whether this service is available. I would like to go ahead and start this service. Yeah, now I can say that participants, that artifact service is now, see how it is up and running. Let's check the status also. You want to check the status? You can check the status. Why? Because we have given a larger size. I guess that worked out. Yeah, it is working. I could see that size was also an issue initially. Now it is working. I can see it's active and running. So let's go ahead and explore our artifact. So it's at 8081, you can expect the artifact, JFrog artifact to be running. Cool. It's up and running now. So what are the steps that you have to follow? I've also mentioned here. So open up at ATPT/Artifactory. By the time you open it up, it's already going to go ahead and do a login. So the credentials are also mentioned here, participants. The credentials are admin and a password. That's an admin and a password. So participants, we will go ahead and integrate this Jenkins with regards to Jenkins. So set a password here. And we'll set up a password here. Next. Oh, I'll skip this because we are just using an open source product. Drop the file or the enter the URL provided by the. So I haven't used the open source. Now it is asking me to activate it. What kind of product did I use here? It's asking me to get the trial. Give me a second, guys. I was trying to use open source. Now I did end up in a licensing module. Let me double check. Do I have any other installation that I can do? but I don't need to get the licenses. It's actually open source products are also available. See, if you visit their product page, OSS was available. I've been using OSS. Somewhere I did end up in their product, which is licensed product. The link. Get duplicate the free link for the download. I'm trying with the free link, participants. So unzip this JFrog zip file. Disk is full. Do something better for now. Let me remove artifact pro.deb, remove AWS CLI version 2.zip, remove this JFrog.zip file. It's running out of storage. And can you install this OSS software? apt install artifact. So participants, the best solution that I can do right now for you is, let me just pause the